Gender transitioning is now canon in Warhammer 40k. Why? Well, because some Black Library author thought it would be a really fitting and thematic addition to the universe, of course. So this comes from that Park Place, which has been doing a lot of excellent coverage recently, referencing a book in which they mention, "I once knew someone who took it when they transitioned," in reference to the name, what was it? Verity, here we go. And somebody asked then for clarification, what do you mean when you write transition? And James Swallow, the author, goes, "Hi. The reference seen is from my sister battle story, Iron and Bone, not my novel, Faith and Fire. Telfer, the pilot, is telling Verity, sister Hospitaller and war hero, about his friend, a regular Imperial citizen, who took the same name after they underwent gender transition." Stunning and brave. Stunning and brave. The article does go on to cover another rather infamous individual, Mike Brooks, who has been far more vociferous and aggressive in his introduction of politics into 40k, but they don't even really need to go that far. So, the interesting part about this is that, here's the thing. In our current year, gender transitioning is not even necessarily a controversial thing. I believe that consenting adults should have the power to do so after a solid year of mandatory therapy, just to make sure that you fully understand the severity of the decision you are making. But beyond that, adults do what adults want to do. However, this is not our world. This is the 41st millennium. And as I talked about a couple of days ago in my definition of a tourist video, there are certain pieces of information that simply do not work in setting. There are certain additions and things from our world, or from fantasy or whatever, that will simply reduce a setting, that will make it lesser than what it once was, because it does not fit into the universe. This is that. Or, to bring an example from that video as well, midichlorians, right? Midichlorians is a fantasy thing. It's not even political, right? It was just added in there, and there was no previous explanation for how the Force worked, or why the Force worked, or what the Force was. So you would think that the addition of midichlorians would simply just be okay, here's an explanation, and nobody would object. I had a lengthy back and forth discussion about this with Rags on the D&D stream the other day, where if you have 3 colors of lightsabers, that does not mean that there is an infinite number of colors of lightsabers. And so when they add a new color of lightsaber, then that is an addition to the overall setting, because we cannot assume before we see the 4th color that there is a 4th or a 5th or a 6th color. So this is a change. It is an addition, but the quality of the addition is then determined by the audience's reception. A purple lightsaber is everyone, okay, sure, why not? That's not a big deal. But midichlorians take away the mystique of the Force. They transform it away from space wizard magic, mystery powers being taught by ancient gurus living in swamps, to, let me just poke you in the arm for a blood test to see how powerful you are in the Force, my young lad. It is an incredibly depreciating change. Depreciating? There's probably a word for this, something that takes away from something, but my English is currently failing me in reaching for it. And this is again that exact same thing, isn't it? 40k is an incredibly dark setting where humanity is forever on the edge of extermination and annihilation. Planets are under any number of threats, be it outside invasion by aliens, orc wargs, dark eldar piratical raids, chaos from inside, from mutants, heretics, psychers, etc, etc, etc. This is a universe in which everything is constantly resting on the very brink. And you are telling me that in this universe, where all resources, where all medical knowledge, where all medical surplus, where all chemical understanding, where all mechanical production, all industrial resources are desperately required somewhere at some point, the Imperium somewhere has elected to put aside stuff for gender transitioning? Really? What are we talking here? Did they find some ancient chemical, an STC construct, that produces gender transition hormones? And then they decided, like, okay, well, you know, this thing leads up tremendous quantities of electricity, of resources, of valuable chemicals, etc., but... yeah, no, we feel this will really increase the standard of living on our world. Let's put it into production. Or are we talking full-on surgery? Like, the surgical arts in 40k are limited at the best of times, with even Imperial guardsmen, fighting men of the God Emperor, being given incredibly crude and rudimentary augmetics when they have their limbs blown off, but... somewhere, somehow, we're carrying out gender transition surgery, are we? It just doesn't fit in, and hell, it's not even that big of a thing. It could simply just be like, my mind transition. One day I decided to stop being Bob and become Jennifer. Okay. I feel like the Arbites would still look at you strangely at that point. You show up to your shift at the manufactorum, your overseer looks at you and is like, Bob, you're looking weird today. It's Jennifer, actually. No, your paper says Bob. Get in place at the line. Where the evidence... God help me. Can you imagine? The administratum, the DMV on steroids, where you need to stand in line for weeks on end for the most rudimentary of things, showing up there and explaining to an administratum drone, hello there, I'd like to change my name and legal gender, please. Form 7352C-2, please. Back of the line. It's so stupid. It's a thing that is of no consequence in a world that has actual problems. In a world where medical expertise is incredibly valuable and rare. In a world where blood plasma used during a surgery is rare and can be sent off to war zones. In a world where all chemicals are used to make explosives or chemical compounds for industry. In a world where the Adeptus Administratum is so hilariously overloaded that changing your goddamn driver's license is going to take 7 to 8 months. In this world, you have gender transitioning. It just doesn't fit at all. Even if we assume the most low-level thing, which is literally just Bob showing up and wanting to be called Jennifer, it's still just like a... Bob, why do you care? Bob, we're at war here, Bob. We're being invaded, Bob. I don't care about your gender identity. There's an orc trying to bite my head off, Bob. Please shoot him and worry less about your pee-pee. It's a gender concern in the 41st millennium. And hey, again, I'm not even making the value judgment here. I am merely pointing out how utterly absurd and non-fitting this is in the 41st millennium, and it is such an obvious piece of the current year. Hell, ignore for a moment how utterly incongruous this would be inside the 41st millennium. You're reading this text here. You're opposite a sister of battle, a famed war hero, and the pilot goes like, "Oh, yes, Verity, or whatever, that's a nice name. I once knew a chap who decided to take that name after his transitioning." And the sister just goes along with this as if it's perfectly normal, like, "Oh, yes, right, well, I never want them to add my name into the book of heroes, but I'm glad your friend Bob is doing well, I suppose." I don't react at all. This happened in the Rise of the Tales of the Empire series the other day as well, the Star Wars one, which, oh god, I suppose I'll have to do the video on that, where there is a fight in there where the bad guys encounter a Jedi, and he looks like a dude. He just looks like a guy, like, and they don't have a conversation. They don't stop their lightsaber fight and go, "Hello, my name is so and so. My pronouns is she, her. What are yours?" No, they have their fight. They slash him, and then they go around. Oh, they wanted to change. They were doing the best. Like, how the hell do you know they were non-binary? How the hell did you intuit this out of the warp? Did you use your force powers to touch his brow and be like, ah, I see. Mental problems. It's completely unfitting for the setting. It takes you roughly and just pulls your ass immediately out of it, toot sweet, and renders you sitting there on the ground like, I was watching Star Wars a moment ago, and then Californian politics decided to enforce themselves upon me. What am I doing here? What is this whole lightsaber thing going on? Are you the good guy now, random Sith woman? You killed your other friend, so I guess you're the hero now? What about the Jedi dude? Did they, them? Did they live? Well, sorry, kind of skipped over that, so who knows and who cares? It is merely a thing forced into a setting, into a story, for absolutely no reason beyond my politics quite like this. And me in real life thinks that my politics should definitely be forced into this thing. Because, well, that is the definition of a tourist. Someone who places their politics above their hobby and their interests. So yeah. Gender transitioning in the far-flung future of the 41st millennium, when humanity just doesn't have any bigger concerns. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.